This is a continuation from part 1, in which I started to go over the brochure that the for-profit corporation called CPS, which is the Child Predator Services Cartel that's running rampantly in corporate U.S. today, gives to parents who have had an anonymous report made against them of an allegation of child abuse and neglect. The video clip that I played at the end of part 1 got cut off at the very end, and I'm going to go ahead and play part of that video clip and reiterate the real threat that families are up against and those who are blowing the whistle and exposing the corruption within. The screen says, such retaliatory power arises from the statutory authority to remove children at will, without due process of law and good evidence. No probable cause, no due process in a true court of record before a jury of one's peers. There's a lot of very suspicious and unlawful acts being committed in back rooms, secret chambers, that are having devastating impacts on children, parents, and families. So I'm going to play this and also talk about how the mother at the end was standing up, giving support to her daughter. She said, I support my daughter 100%. And that is where the video turned off, when she was saying 100%. And after the clip, I want to talk about the shift in thinking that has occurred within so many people putting their trust in this for-profit corporation and all the other alphabet soup corporations, instead of in people who are being violated.
And Heather Carol Lopez, a witness in LaVoy's case, is now being investigated.
Her caseworker had threatened me that she said, if you don't leave now, then you're going to have problems with your kids.
We tried to talk to DCF about the case, but they refused to comment. Jessica says they refused to comment to her as well. In fact, they set up a couple hearings at the first trying to take the kids away in December, but never told her about them. She had her first court hearing since being in jail this morning. The judge asked her if she'd tell him where the kids were. She said no.
The judge told me today, he's like, well, if you just tell me where the kids are, we'll leave them where they are. I'm like, I don't believe you. You're not going to give me that in writing. I'm not giving to anything you say.
LaVoy says she hasn't told anyone where her children are, not even her mother.
To be honest with you, if I did, I wouldn't say. I'm behind my daughter 100%.
Jim Abbott, WPBF News 25.
It's heartwarming to hear this mother's support for her adult daughter, and to see her adult daughter doing everything she could do in order to try to protect her children from being violated by this for-profit corporation. We saw in late Congresswoman Nancy Schaefer's video in part 1, where she talked about foster kids being 6 times more likely to be abused. And this mother had run-ins with this for-profit corporation before and had sued them, was in the process of suing them. So we see the retaliation right before us. Now, I have a quote on the screen from Adolf Hitler, and it reads, as long as the government is perceived as working for the benefit of children, the people will happily endure almost any curtailment of liberty and almost any deprivation. So let's take some time to really think about what this quote is saying. Because you know what? There is a system in place that slowly over time has changed the thinking and beliefs of people in society. Doesn't mean that everyone fully believes this, because those who have been through horrendous experiences face to face with the corruption, they realize what's going on. But mainstream and the masses truly are blind to what's going on. Their hearts have been hardened, their eyes and their ears are closed to the real deception at play. So there has to be different systems in place and institutions in order to bring about the desired behavior in people. And why is it important to study human behavior and the human mind? Well, you must understand people in order to control them. Right here I have a diagram, and it talks about anthropology, psychology, and sociology. And in the circles, under anthropology, it says cultural customs and rituals. Under sociology, it says group dynamics, roles, rules, and institutions. Under psychology, it says personality development. And then in the middle, it says all study human behavior. Social norms have also been studied extensively. Now, in this article, the definition of social norms says the customary rules that govern behavior in groups and societies. Now, I'm going to read just a little bit more in this article about the function of social norms. And again, I will leave a link to the source in the description box, and I encourage people to go back and use this as a platform, as a place to start researching and learning more about these phenomenons that we are experiencing and seeing right before us. So they say, since norms are mainly seen as constraining behavior, some of the important differences between moral, social, and legal norms, as well as differences between norms and conventions, have been blurred. Much attention instead has been paid to the conditions under which norms will be obeyed. Because of that, the issue of sanctions has been paramount in the social science literature. They continue and say, moreover, since social norms are seen as central to the production of social order or social coordination, research on norms has been focused on the functions they perform and whether they do so efficiently. Yet even if a norm may fulfill important social functions such as welfare maximization or the elimination of externalities, it cannot be explained, they say, solely or mainly on the basis of the functions it performs. The simplistic functionalist perspective has been rejected on several accounts, since even if a given norm can be conceived as a means to achieve some social goal, this is usually not the reason why it emerged in the first place. Moreover, though a particular norm may persist as opposed to emerge because of some positive social function it fulfills, there are many others that are inefficient. Question everything. Don't just eat what's served to you. Don't believe that you're not able to do the research yourself. People will try to discourage you from researching, saying there's just so much out online and there's so much falsehood, and there is. But we have the ability to use critical thinking and to keep asking questions and keep seeking for the answers. I want to reiterate that this system is fine-tuned and it's a well-oiled machine. So they have countless change models out there in order to help people to change their way of thinking and behaving, deeply rooted in psychology and sociology, etc. They also have models for resistance to change. So they even have stages of resistance and how to help people work through their current stage that they are in and the different levels of resistance that they say exist. So before I go on to a video clip talking about the corruption within CPS, I wanted to go here. This website talks about, once again, different types of strategies to silence people who are trying to expose corruption. So I will leave a link, and I encourage you to look into COINTELPRO and Zionism to gain a little bit more understanding about the methods that have been used through history. So I just want to quickly touch on these 4 methods that are talked about in this article. And it says infiltration, psychological warfare, harassment via the legal system, and illegal force. We must understand that the enforcement is in favor of these for-profit corporations, not in favor of the people. As we see in countless testimonies by parents who talk about there being no justice in these kangaroo courts. And, if the cases do not go into the anti-family kangaroo courts, what's being done internally within these for-profit CPS corporations without any accountability. So I'm going to go ahead and play a video clip. It's about 5 minutes long. This is Jennifer Wynn. She ran for governor of Kansas, and she has a lot of experience with parents who have been violated by DCF or CPS, whatever they want to go by. And in this interview, she speaks about Raymond Schwab and the corruption that he experienced in his family. And she also brings up very good points about just the condemnation that is taking place and using people's past in order to incriminate them for life. I will apologize ahead of time that the interview took place in has a loud background, but she still talks loud enough for you to hear what she's saying.
So basically, what we're seeing now is what I would call atypical. And you have entities out there that like to try and dig up dirt on anyone that tries to buck the system. That's what they do. They try to make you look crazy. They try to say, oh, you're a drug addict 6 years ago, so you don't deserve to have your kids today. You've been arrested for domestic violence, even though you're 80 pounds and you didn't have a victim. And they take away from the focus.
Now that's with Amelia, right?
Yes. They charged Amelia with domestic violence 6 months prior to this incident happening. And I guess, we have those people out there in a glass house that like to try and say, well, she was arrested for domestic violence, therefore she's an unfit mother. What the media is failing to tell you is that Amelia was loaded with prescription drugs.
Yeah.
Amelia was having a mental breakdown from the side effects of those drugs that we call legal today.
Because of Kansas.
Yes, and so it makes me sick and disgusted when I see these people out here going, well, he shouldn't have his kids, or he's not a veteran. We had to prove that Raymond was a veteran. All of these people are doing is simply taking the focus. You want to call Raymond a liar? Call Raymond a liar. You want to call Amelia a criminal because she got arrested for domestic violence, having a complete meltdown from the side effects of the pharmaceuticals? Do so. But all you're doing is empowering the criminals who are kidnapping our children. Because let me tell you something. You can call Raymond Schwab a liar all you want. You can discredit him. You can bring up his past from 25 years ago. I really don't care. The bottom line is this. Hundreds of thousands of people are not liars. Okay? It doesn't happen. DCF is stealing our kids for money. It is legalized human trafficking. So if you want to pick one father apart who chose to stand up and execute his rights as a citizen of this country, you can do that all day long, Associated Press. You can do that all day long, advocates that call yourselves advocates while you're out there destroying the very mission that we have. Because this isn't about Raymond and Amelia Schwab. This is about DCF, CPS, destroying our families. And it's not justified. So if you think that a domestic violence charge is justifiable 6 months prior to removing their children is okay, you need your head examined. That's what I think. It's not okay. Now, if you haven't figured out that we have a serious problem with criminal justice and the fact that we need to reform the entire thing, you need your head examined. If you think that these people are not going to prison facing long sentences for ridiculousness, then you need to wake up and you need to get on Google and quit listening to the TV. I mean, that's the bottom line. Get up off your butts and go sit in a courtroom. If you want to see unjustness, go sit in a courtroom. Because I've been doing it now for 3 years. And what I'm seeing is disgusting. And I'm not going to sit back and say nothing about it. Raymond has never once stated he's a person of perfection. Neither has Amelia. No one has ever said that. We all have our past. We all have things we're not proud of. So are you telling me that the grandmother that was accused of hitting a cop 25 years ago and is absolutely not a viable placement for her grandchildren? Because if you do, I'm going to tell you again, you need your head examined. The bottom line is this. This fight is not about one family. This fight is not about 5 children. This fight is about all of our families by the hundreds of thousands. And for those of us that know that, we discredit the ones who are trying to discredit this family who has taken the stand that so many should have already done before this. So for me, it's a no-brainer. I don't judge people for their past, I judge people for their present. And in the present day, Raymond and Amelia Schwab, like hundreds of thousands of others, have had their children removed, and it's kidnapping. It's kids for cash. It's legalized human trafficking at the expense of our future, and it's not acceptable today, tomorrow, or ever. And I'm going to keep fighting.
I think that Jennifer Wynn did an amazing job in a short amount of time exposing the corruption and the need for people to stand up, to become aware, and to say no more. Now, the problem isn't only that these for-profit corporations will use up and dig up anything on people to use against them. They will also falsify reports and twist the truth using hearsay in order to incriminate parents while not using those exact words. Okay, once again, we look at how they substantiate reports. And I'm going to go ahead and read from where we left off in the last video so that we can see more about what they do during their assessment/interrogations and how families are being violated every step of the way. So here we are. It says, what can I expect during an assessment? A DHS worker will meet with you, your family, and other members of your household. The DHS worker will attempt to contact you prior to interviewing your child unless it is believed that would compromise your child's safety. The DHS worker will arrange to visit your home as part of the assessment. If the alternative response is being used, you will be encouraged to have a supportive person, maybe a community partner or a service provider, with you during this meeting. Your child may need medical attention or a medical exam as part of the assessment. The DHS worker may ask you to take your child to the doctor. A DHS worker may talk to your child's school. The DHS worker may ask about relatives or family friends who can support your family or help keep your child safe from you. In the event that DHS must remove a child from an unsafe home, kidnapping, the DHS worker must consider whether any actions can prevent the child from being removed from the home. If there is a reason to believe there are immediate safety threats to the child, police and/or DHS may remove, legally kidnap, the child from the home and have a court order put in place afterward. If what I just read is not disturbing to people, then we seriously need to have a wake-up call, because there's over 600,000 kids right now in foster care, and tens upon thousands of parents have had their rights, their parental rights, terminated without due process of law. So here we are, this what they call authority comes in and says, okay, I have to meet with everyone in your family and assess them. I'm going to do an interview is what they call it, but it is an interrogation. They also do not like to be video recorded. That is something that needs to be talked about, because there should be transparency in these cases. Okay, we're talking about police wearing body cams to make sure that people's rights aren't being violated, and there's evidence of, police brutality and different things going on. Why is this not the case in these kangaroo courts and within CPS? They talk about confidentiality. Well, I have to say that most parents going through this, it's their own families, and so they get to decide what is confidential and what's not. And making sure that you are protected and that everything is documented so that things don't get twisted is so important. So that is just a way that this for-profit corporation is trying to get away with doing their deeds in the dark. So it's even down to the point of whether they are going to contact you prior to what they say as interviewing your child. If they believe that this compromises your child's safety within their internal policies and procedures and internal regulations, then they may not tell you, and they may just pull your child out of school. The schools work together with these for-profit corporations. Everyone in these education systems, the doctor's offices and such, and I won't say everyone, but the majority of people trust these for-profit corporations and believe they're doing good. And I'm not saying that sometimes they don't do good, because wickedness isn't able to continue on unless it is crafty. So these people have to be very crafty, and as we saw before, it's deeply rooted in psychology and sociology, the study of behavior and the study of the human mind. Now, we go on further to where they start talking about your child needing medical attention and going into a doctor. Now, when these, what they call medical examinations are done, they are very, very intrusive. And once again, this is all being done based on allegations of child abuse or neglect. Okay? There has not been a trial whatsoever. And then when they say that the DHS worker may talk to your child's school, well, what's that about? So they're going out and they are completely discrediting you. They have so many defamatory statements being made against families, and your reputation is completely destroyed because of these people coming in and people being ignorant to what's actually happening. Parents are stigmatized for having these cases open and are seen as guilty until proven innocent or guilty. Up here, I want to go over, them going out and saying, okay, let's see who else can help keep your kids safe based on allegations. And then if they remove, that's the terms they use. It's a legal removal instead of a kidnapping. Then they're going to come in afterwards and have a court order put in place. The majority of child kidnappings by the state are due to unsubstantiated allegations, while only a small percentage of abuse allegations are actually substantiated. We have a big problem here, and everything is being done under the guise of safety and protection. And as we saw with the quote by Adolf Hitler, the problem is that people perceive that the government is working in favor of the children, when in fact that is the furthest thing from the truth. And though the evidence is being silenced and shoved under the rug, it exists, and people are speaking out. We need to make sure that we stand on the side of truth for those who want to protect children and parents and families who are not guilty of any crime. There's no injured party. There is no due process of law in a true court of record before a jury of one's peers. And that is what is needed in order for justice to be served in this wicked land of captivity today. So this is the end of this video clip, and I will continue part 3 in another video. And I'm going to end with the realistic experience, the real experience that children and families are experiencing, and the terror within them when they are legally kidnapped. And this may be hard to listen to, but we really need to wake up to the reality of what's going on and not distance ourselves from the truth. Thank you for watching.